Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again it is Sunday and time for the Texas Gun Vault poll question of the week. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite segments that I produce, mainly because you guys interact with it so much. I get so many votes. I wish all of my videos got as many watches as you guys vote on my polls. You guys interact, put lots of comments, and interact with each other. I absolutely love it. But this week's poll question dealt with all of the brouhaha about the Joe Biden executive actions last week that we talked about in the This Week in Gun News, where I told you, don't worry, nothing's going to happen. But I listed all of the executive actions in this week's poll, asking you guys which one concerns you the most and why. So with that in mind, let's dive right into this week's poll question. Based on what you have read, seen, and heard, which, if any, of the executive actions concern you the most? Now, for this poll question, I had to limit it to 5 because that's all YouTube allows me to do. But Joe Biden had 6 executive orders. So I combined 2 that pretty much dealt with public funding of gun violence prevention and some type of research. So I kind of put that together as pretty much a spreadsheet, is essentially what his action was trying to do. So I combined that into one. So let's go over the results of the poll. With 870 votes, regulations on ghost guns, 6%. Regulations on pistol braces, 19%. Model for red flag laws, 26%. Funding for community violence interventions and annual report, 1%. And the nomination of David Chipman to head the ATF. Or as Joe Biden calls it, the AFT. I know, it's what he called it. But anyway, let's get into my thoughts of each of these results. The regulations on ghost guns. This is one that personally, I don't really feel like I have a horse in this race, and here's why. Number one, I don't have any guns made from 80% parts kits. It's not something that has ever interested me. I do build guns, but I buy the receivers already fully complete. I don't want to be doing any of the milling or drilling and mess any of that up myself. I just like having the guns complete and ready to go. Now, I do believe though, they should be fully legal, and you guys, if that's what interests you, should be able to acquire them. I actually think this is going to be a good regulation and help gun owners more than hurt, and I'll explain why. The reason is this is going to force the ATF and the regulators to finally clearly define what is and is not a firearm. When all of these things fall into this gray area, that's where people get into trouble because, yeah, we want to skirt that line. We want to get as close to that line as possible and not go over. But then all of a sudden, the ATF, with a snap of the finger, changes the regulation and you're in trouble, you're getting arrested, or you hear a company getting raided and that kind of stuff. But if they have clearly defined examples of what is and what is not a firearm, then you can feel more confident that you are in the clear. You're not breaking the law and don't have to worry about any type of government interference. Now, the way this could hurt gun owners is they may say, well, an 80% finished receiver is too close to a firearm to be a firearm. But eventually they're going to say, well, a 70% is not. And trust me, necessity is the mother of invention. So if they even dropped it to a 50% finished receiver is not a firearm, trust me, there will be people out there that will create kits and jigs and all these other tools to finish 50% receivers. It will happen. It will cost more time with you on the building side, but you will still be able to assemble these. And so no law right now is being proposed that would ban the manufacture of firearms at home. These kits, and if they regulate them more, isn't going to change anything. You'll still be able to buy them in some capacity, and you'll still be able to make firearms from home. This is just one of those feel-good measures. Now, as I said, if you love 80% parts kits and building guns from 80% parts kits, yeah, I can see where this is going to bother you a little bit. But for the most part, it doesn't, in my opinion, come close to banning other types of guns, banning magazines, making ammo harder to get. None of that. So for me, it's a real good, feel-good measure for the media to kind of run, grab onto, and I know that a lot of the people that are the real home gunsmiths are going to feel a little bit put out by this regulation. But in the end, I don't think it's really going to hurt them too much. Yes, I do think it is wrong, but in the grand scheme of all these executive actions, this is not one that I think I should worry about a lot. All right, so the next one, regulations on pistol braces. Now, when I made this poll, I actually thought this is the one that was going to get the most votes, because this is the one where we get into that gray area again about how an accessory is used. We had the same issue when it came to bump stocks a very long time ago. And many people in the pro-Second Amendment community were telling all of you guys, and I was one of them, you got to fight this. I know you may not own a bump stock, may not care about bump stocks, but once they can change their mind and make an accessory part of a gun and a regulated part of a gun, they're going to come for everything. That means they can turn any AR-15, any semi-auto rifle into a machine gun just because they say so, because it has a particular accessory on it. Well, this is changing pistols into short-barreled rifles. Now, I also have mentioned in the past that I kind of blame gun owners because we've tried to poke the bear too often. I keep telling you guys, the first rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. So you have all these pistol brace companies and all these gun owners out there that want to make the NFA nut kicker guns, and they literally brag about it on YouTube. You guys know government regulators and the ATF are watching YouTube. I'm sure they've seen some of my videos, and that's one of the reasons why I produce the content that I do. I try to show that I am pro-Second Amendment. I believe that we should repeal the NFA. I am a Second Amendment absolutist. However, I follow the law. I try to show responsible gun ownership. I try to show how to be compliant with the law, but still urge you guys to vote and be politically active to change the law. So I know that people are watching this channel. They watch all firearms channels. So we want to do this responsibly. Now, if you want to make these pistol braces and put them on pistols, they said it's okay, it's not a short-barreled rifle, then don't go out there and poke the bear. You guys know what I'm saying? And that also brought the attention of pistol braces to politicians that had no idea what were pistol braces 6 months ago. So it's one of those. The first rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. Don't poke the bear. When you got a good thing going, keep it going. Don't make a big deal about it. But I kind of thought this one was going to get a lot more votes. This is actually the one that, out of all of these, I'm the most concerned about, because if this can go through, then eventually they're going to say, well, just because you add a pistol grip to a semi-auto rifle, now it's a machine gun because it makes it so much easier to fire faster. And they can say, well, you can't have a metal handguard, a plastic handguard, because they're going to come up with some weird ruling or logic to say that turns it into a rapid fire rifle, therefore it's a machine gun. This is the one that personally concerns me the most, and the one that I would have voted for. The next up, we got model for red flag laws. Now, this one got the second most amount of votes. And I completely understand why people are concerned about this one. But remember, as I said in the This Week in Gun News, this is not a proposed red flag law or bill. Simply, it's a model that Joe Biden's administration wants to create so states can pass them themselves. They're already passing them. It's not like California is now going to go back and look at this one and modify their law. The California law is probably going to go further than what the model is. And if you're already living in a blue state, they're going to pass it anyway. It doesn't matter if the Biden administration comes out with a model for red flag laws. They're just going to look to California, New York, New Jersey, the usual suspects, and pass their own red flag law. They're going to do it anyway, and the red states are completely going to ignore it. This is one of those executive actions that I said is kind of a wash. It does absolutely nothing. They're going to publish the report. The media is going to say, woohoo, now all these states are going to pass this, and nothing's going to happen. But I understand the concerns, because I guess when it comes to the actual legal penalties and how it is an affront to our rights in the Constitution, especially that of due process, this is the one that would concern me. But because it's not a bill, it's not a proposed law, not a proposed regulation, it didn't concern me as much. As I said, blue states are going to blue state, red states are going to red state, and that's the way it's going to be, and I don't think anything's really going to come from that one. The next one I just kind of put in here because I kind of had to, but funding for community violence interventions and an annual report, 1%. This was the funny one, as though somehow gangbangers in Los Angeles are going to say, we can't shoot each other because there's an annual report that comes out about gun trafficking every year. Or, oh, look at that ex-con who used to be one of us telling us don't shoot at each other, even though he's concealing a gun on his person anyway. We already know this is going to do absolutely nothing whatsoever. There is no evidence that these gun violence interventions or these annual reports do anything when it comes to stopping gun violence. It's a joke, but somebody voted for it. Who knows? Maybe it was just a funny vote, but I was kind of surprised anyone voted for it anyway. And finally, we have the nomination of David Chipman to head the ATF or AFT. And 48%. Now, this is also the one I don't understand why everyone's all concerned about, because right now there's an acting director, Regina Lombardo. She was nominated during the Obama administration to be the acting director. She's anti-gun. Her views on the Second Amendment are no different than Mr. Chipman. And everybody that has been in that position has held the same views. Even the ones that were nominated under Obama, the ones that were nominated under Bush, the ones that were nominated under Clinton, they've all been the same. It doesn't matter. The other thing that is good news when it comes to the director is that really the director is there to enforce the law, not to interpret the law. Now, I know what you're saying. They come up with all these different regulations and interpretations. But in general, I always found it funny during the Obama administration when I was first getting into NFA items that essentially on the form it says the Attorney General of the United States has authorized this or whatever when you pay your tax. So essentially, by extension, Eric Holder allowed me to buy silencers. I know that seems weird, but that's the way it was because he was the Attorney General of the United States, which oversees the Justice Department, which oversees the ATF. So the anti-gun politicians had to go through the law and say, even though we don't want you to make short barrel rifles, we don't want you to make short barrel shotguns, we don't want you to transfer silencers, they still had to sign off on it because that was the law. I really don't see much happening with this, even if he does get confirmed, which, by the way, I don't think there's a chance in heck that he's going to get confirmed with the makeup of the Senate. He's too controversial. It's just too controversial. And the ATF hasn't had a director in a long time. That's why they've had acting directors. And because it's such a hot button issue. And so if you nominate someone that is so polarizing, it's not going to get through. It's just a dog and pony show, and that's all this is going to be. So that is my thoughts on all of these responses. So let's get to your comments. So our top rated comment of the day is from Kay Bauer, who says, the Chipman nomination was a close second, but the red flag laws have so much potential for misuse. Now, I completely agree with him, but as I mentioned, the red flag law and the proposal had nothing to do with actual making of law or regulation. It was just a model that states could follow or not follow. So I'm not too concerned. So obviously he would have been in the majority, most likely with the Chipman nomination. Next up, we have Joe Morgan, who says red flag laws are abused because there is no accountability or due process, but all of it is terrible. No, I completely agree with him there. It is all terrible. Yes, it is. But he talks about the red flag laws. So a lot of the comments, as I'm reading all this, it seems like the people that voted very differently than the people that commented. The people that commented seemed to care about different things than the nomination of David Chipman. Because I said, a lot of this is red flag law stuff. Next up, we have Officer Winker, who says, red flags and pistol braces. Although it does give me an opportunity to SBR some of the lowers, I've been lazy enough not to. Hopefully there's some type of grandfathering rule with the AFT is willing to waive the stamp. And I actually think that's what's going to happen. If there is some type of regulation that I have mentioned, they're going to say, okay, if you got these particular pistols and they're configured this certain way, you bought them in good faith, assuming that they were legal, we will grandfather them in without a tax. That's the way it's going to be. Now, the transfer from that point will have the tax. But I definitely think that would be in the regulation. In fact, that was one of the proposed regulation changes before the ATF withdrew them a few months ago. And next we got Surgical, who says, easily red flag laws, a Second and Fourth Amendment violation. Then precincts in PA have literally lost people's firearms. Others, you have to pay a storage fee for them holding onto your guns they illegally took from you already. Just nasty, nasty business. And I completely agree there. And I've mentioned that's one of the things too when it comes to firearms confiscations. And I think that there should be aspects of firearms red flag laws. Now, first of all, I'm against them 100%. But I think that one of the things that they should put in there is that you can give your firearms to friends, family, or an FFL. People that are going to treat your property with respect. The police are going to come in and take your $4,000 rifle and dump it into a trash can, a plastic trash can, take it out to the van, throw it in the thing. It's probably going to fall out, maybe hit the cement or two, bounce around a little bit. They're going to take it down to the station. They're going to log it, probably with the wrong serial number, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, it accidentally left. We don't know where it went. We all know what happens. I've talked about stories in the past where district attorneys are in trouble because the police departments and the evidence lockers under their authority had guns go missing. And finally, we have Martin A., who says, all I want to know is where all the FUD gun owners that voted for Biden because Trump hurt their feelings. Well, yeah, that's the one thing I'll never understand about what happened back in November. Now listen, I was not a Trump fan from the perspective of I think he's the greatest person ever. I wish he would have gotten off Twitter a long time ago. But the thing I did like about him is that he was a fighter. But I understand because of his attitude and his demeanor, he probably offended a lot of people. I know conservatives that did not vote at all or voted for Biden because Donald Trump was mean. But they would literally vote against all of their values because Donald Trump was mean. And a lot of that had to do, I think, with the media. The media made him out to be some type of monster. As I said, Donald Trump is not the greatest human being that has ever walked the face of the earth. I don't think he's the greatest personality. I don't want to say he's not a good man. I think the presidency changed him. I think when he got into office, he was more arrogant. But I think as he got to travel the country, got to meet citizens, got to see the power of the office, I think it really humbled him. I think he changed as a person. I don't think he was a very religious man going into the office, and I think leaving, he was, or at least a little bit more. I definitely think it all changed him over time. But I understand not wanting to vote for him because you might think that he's an immoral person or whatever. But look at the alternative. You're essentially voting for somebody who has a complete antithetical philosophy and political ideas than what you do. And a lot of gun owners did that. Some of it could have been out of ignorance. Some of it just could have been out of spite. Just say, I hate Donald Trump. And for me, when I go in to vote, I want to vote for somebody and not against somebody. So when I cast my vote in the last election, I voted for Trump. I actually felt like he was doing a good job, and I felt like that was the best direction and course for the nation. So that's who I voted for. Now, I will say I am a single issue voter. Now, a lot of the people that I think are going to kind of be the nominees in the future, I don't think I'm going to vote for. I mean, I'll be very honest with you guys, and this might actually tick a lot of people off. I actually contacted the county voter registration division here in Denton County, Texas, and I told them, take me off the voter rolls. I am done, because I saw how the Republican Party refuses to fight. There's no voter integrity. I personally do not believe anymore that my vote matters. That I have no assurance that my vote is properly cast. I have no assurance that when I cast my single vote that other people aren't casting multiple votes. I have no assurance that my vote is even being counted, because we heard in many of the counties in Georgia and other places around the country that when they actually did audits, oh, look at these 1,500 ballots that we found and they all went for Trump. This is after the election. I have no assurances of that. I'm not going to go and stand in line anymore to vote for people that aren't going to fight for me. They have to earn a vote. Does it mean I won't vote again in the future? No, doesn't mean that, but it says I'm very unlikely to, because the people that are running don't care. They'll give you platitudes, but they're not actually going to go out and fight. And that is the one thing I did like about Donald Trump. Love him or hate him, he was a fighter. He fought hard. Doing 3 or 4 rallies a day, he wanted to be president. Where you had his opponent that would just stay in the basement and maybe go outside and talk to 10 people. To me, it was a national embarrassment. But anyway, that's another story for another day. But that's kind of how I feel about that. So that's kind of a long answer to his comment. So there you go. So that is the Texas Gun Vault poll question of the week. Now, if you enjoyed this segment, please go over to the community tab of my YouTube channel, and you guys can see the new poll for next week. And so you guys can go there, vote, like other people's comments, and comment yourself. I do not vote in these polls, and I do not respond to other people in these polls because I do not want to alter the results. I have a feeling if I get into a conversation with somebody, a bunch of people will respond, and that will drive up a certain comment that might not be getting a lot of likes. So I try to remain as neutral as I can until I make these videos. So there you go. So go over there and check out the poll. Also want to let you guys know that I've created a second channel where I do kind of some behind the scenes stuff, some frequently asked questions that I don't always get to make videos about here on the main channel. So if you're interested, go check out the Texas Gun Vault 2. I will put a link in the description below. So let me know if you have any questions. And as always, thanks for watching.